Boy, howdy, folks. Welcome to the channel where I drink the beer and I play the War Thunder, and then I talk about the War Thunder and the beer. And we don't have a beer tonight because I'm doing this kind of like early in the morning, and it's call it Irish Coffee Thunder. I have a good old coffee with a little splash of Bailey's in it, so I'm not slurring my words and like being super duper toxic. And I'm gonna be like somewhat smart and intelligent today, or have the facade of doing that because we're War Thunder players. Being smart and intelligent is completely beyond the pale. It is not something that actually happens. So we're gonna do our best impersonation of it. Now, what is the subject of the video? Why are you here? Why would you even want to watch this video? Well, really simply, I'm gonna tell you exactly a step-by-step process of how to get good at sim without there actually being a step. Because for a lot of people, it's going to be a really good video, and for other people, it's going to be a bad video because people learn things in different ways. Some people like to have things really structured, like to have the step-by-step process, love to have the diagrams, the slideshow, the 3 hour expose on exactly how you have to do everything, exactly how you have to sit in your gaming chair to go out and play a video game. I am not that content creator. I don't have the mental capacity. I don't have the desire to do a step by step, extremely in depth thing of like what I think is important. Because I think there's a certain point where the length of the lesson becomes the focus of itself, and it will actually kind of like prevent you guys from just like go out and play the game. Because uh, basically, at the end of the day, the way that you get good at playing the game is you go out and you play the game. It's really all you have to do. But there are better ways to go out and play the game than others because a lot of people look at things and they look at sim and they go in it with a preconceived notion that I'm going to go in and I'm going to do everything at once. I'm going to learn the whole entire skill set equally at the same time, and it's going to work out perfectly fine. And there's problems with this, namely that there are more than one things to put together a good sim game to actually become good at the game. You have to break things down into fundamental core components and then focus on those things individually. Because if you can refine one thing and do one thing reflexively, you can also then dedicate that energy that you would be doing to do something deliberately to doing something else. So if you break down sim into like a couple like core components, like say, like for me, foundation wise, if I'm like, hey, this is my foundation, this is the thing that I want to build on. My foundation for playing sim is basically the reason that we all like want to transition to this great, awesome game mode or whatever we say is my foundation is called flying the damn plane. Everything that I do, most of the things that I do that I focus on, and the things that I love refining, are centered around flying the goddamn fucking airplane in sim. This is not real flying. I'm not like I'm a real honest to god pilot. I'm really good at the War Thunder. Oh, you make me a real pilot. No, but we're gonna call it flying the plane because being able to control your plane, control it through the whole entire speed range, understanding what it does, being able to do it reflexively, being able to manage your flaps, being able to do things instinctually, and do it kind of like just as a matter of fact means that once you master that, once you're comfortable in the plane, you can focus on other things that matter, like aiming the guns, hitting your shots, maintaining situational awareness, understanding the performance matchups between your plane and the enemy plane, understanding like developing some sense of game sense where you kind of have this like third sense, fourth sense, sixth sense, whatever in the back of your mind going, oh, hey, I've extended to their side of the map and I'm at low altitude and I committed to a dogfight for about a minute and a half and their airfield's very close. And if I'm going up and I'm almost stalling and I get third partied, I'm not going to be surprised. It gives me something to analyze my gameplay through. It gives me something to filter through, like, oh, hey, I died for this reason. Oh, hey, I'm doing good for these reasons. Oh, hey, I'm not doing well for these reasons. Like, stuff like that. So, my fundamental, first thing I start off with, and the first thing that I like encourage people to do in order to enjoy sim, is to learn how to fly the plane. And that starts with set your controls up correctly, meaning, hey, put your buttons where you can reach them. You don't want to have your flaps up button on one side of your keyboard and your flaps down button on your Wiimote. Like, doesn't make sense. Like, use common sense. Map your head tracking so that it actually works for you, or map your view control in a way that will work for you. You need to be able to consistently look around all of the time. Like, looking and finding targets is a part of the game. Um, Going beyond that, though, one of the things that I recommend people do, and what I do with a lot of people in my servers, we do a lot of like 1v1s, because really, you can go into a sim match, and if you don't get in the right sim match and you don't know exactly how to look for targets, you're going to look for a target for 5 minutes, you're going to go and engage a target for like a minute and a half, and you're spending 30 to 40 seconds like taking the plane to its like maximum performance, and then not learning from it quickly enough. You're not getting the reps in that you need. So using 1v1s for me is a good way to teach like basic plane control stuff, forcing people to go beyond their comfort zone and try to develop that skill of where they can like maneuver the plane kind of like on a more instinctual level, where it's more reflexive and you're not having to think about it as much. That's why I use 1v1s a lot. Same thing with when you focus on a plane, when you're gonna like focus on flying a plane, pick a couple of planes that are like reasonably good. Like, you're not gonna be the quirky weirdo guy who's like cracked as hell in like the Do 335 and can maneuver with it and like has like the sixth sense to like see through the back of the cockpit and make like this giant twin engined monstrosity like into a turn fighter. Like, you're not gonna be that guy. That takes character development. That takes a while to like actually get to that point. Like, focus on not necessarily like, okay, go get the A6M5 and learn how to play that, because that's a very short learning curve. But like, focus on a couple of different things. Like, hey, take out your 109, take out your Yak 3, your Yak 9s, your Corsairs, your P47s, your P51s. Maybe step into a Spitfire once in a while and be like, okay, cool. I know the Spitfire's good, but this makes me uncomfortable. I'm gonna step back into a comfort zone and like expand your comfort zone for like plane control crap. The other half of the plane control crap is to get use at shooting against maneuvering targets. And the best way to refine this is to go shoot at maneuvering targets. One of the things that I did really early on, because when I started out, I was kind of like still uncomfortable with the controls. Like, my brain was behind the controls. I knew kind of what I wanted to do, but I couldn't do it at the speed that I wanted to with the finesse that I wanted to. What I did is I went into custom games. I basically set up a lobby where I could fight against bots. And you can do this in the test flight. And the bots are not necessarily good. They're not supposed to be good, cracked, do anything like specifically realistically, but they will give you shot profiles that you can basically slaughter 40 bots in like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. You can get a lot of gun practice really quickly, as opposed to going out to an EC lobby and trying to do everything at once, trying to learn everything piece by piece, and then going back. If you break things down into core components, work on the core components, you can then eventually put them all together in the EC lobby. You know, it seems like common sense, but like, I feel like I got to say this because it's War Thunder. Common sense is not common. So once you have kind of figured out how to fly the damn plane, once you've gotten to the point where you know you can get to an engagement and you at least have a fighting chance in the plane that you're in, what is the next thing that you should do? Or what is another thing that you should work on in parallel, but look at as a separate skill set? Well, the second kind of skill set that I would say is like situational awareness, because you can look at the map, you can look at everything going around, and you can figure out a way to get to the engagement. But if you can't like actually win the engagement, then like all the situational awareness in the world doesn't really matter. But if you do have good situational awareness, you can learn how to stack the deck for every one of your engagements. You can understand what your plane is good at. You can understand the maps. You can understand like places on maps where people congregate. So like on Tunisia, this map here, like our little city in the middle that's on the coast, people tend to congregate there. Same thing with like maps like Sicily. Over the lake, people tend to congregate there. So like if you're there, you kind of know that people are probably going to be coming there. So if you're stuck in a dogfight in that location for a little bit too long, you're probably going to have someone behind you. And speaking of behind you, if you notice that the way that I play this game when I'm doing my track IR thing with my head tracking is I devote a lot of attention to kind of looking over my back left and my back right shoulders. Having a plane with good rear visibility means that you're less likely to get surprised. And I'm always trying to clear my back end, because that's where people are going to probably come and shoot me from and are probably going to end up hurting my feelings. So that's why I'm always doing that. Same thing you can add to it, though. It's not just like, oh, yeah, we just look around and we just like do things. Like, no, there's multiple layers to this. This could be a whole entire the situational awareness onion iceberg thing, 3 hours on YouTube, and go to sleep to that and be white noise. Like, I look at the kill feed because the kill feed will tell you who's in your game and what they're playing. And if you know what the enemy's flying and if you know what's in the mix, you can kind of tune your tactics to kind of counteract that. Like if I'm in a lobby with a bunch of Japanese planes, right? The one thing that I might do is I might still turn fight, but I'm probably not going to commit to those turn fights and commit to like those low altitude turn fights where I don't have that altitude buffer to dive out from. I'm looking at the map, I'm looking at the kill feed, I'm looking at the player count, and I'm tuning what I consider to be like my predominant strategy based on the information that I can gather. Which segues into kind of like my third point, which is like just have a plan. Have a plan, have an idea of like what your plane is good at and how you can use the capabilities of the plane to kind of maximize your impact in the match. But just because you have a plan, just because you're like, oh, my plane is a boom and zoomer, don't get caught up in the idea that thou shalt boom and zoom and thou shalt not deviate from it. Unless you're flying something that's like specifically like can't really do anything else. Like I understand if you're like in a 190 D9 at 5.7, that plane, yeah, you might have to just suck it up and fly in straight lines and enjoy straight lines. But if you're anything that has like any sort of versatility to it, like be willing to change that plan up, try to play the margins, and also like don't be afraid to play in ways that are like counterproductive. For instance, like sometimes if I'm playing different planes, I'll go in like at low altitude in something that's supposed to be a boom and zoomer, but I'm not doing it just to maximize game impact or maximize my kills. I might be going in as basically bait just to refine like my defensive flying skills. I might be trying to play the game in a way that's a little bit different with like a different priority other than just getting kills. Because at the end of the day, if you really want to have like a really good plan, and props especially, like just take the fastest plane for the BR, sit above everything, and just get 10 kills, and every time someone gets behind you, run to the airfield. People do that. I don't like doing it. I don't do it. It's boring to me. Like, why would you like fly sim to then like fly the plane in the most like boring like one note way possible? So like I like to try to mix it up. Same thing with like, don't turn fight Japanese players. I do that sometimes because I'm like I'm gonna do it anyways because I think it'll work out sometimes. So far we have 3 things that are basically fundamental to being good at sim. Like number 1, fly the damn plane. Number 2, maintain situational awareness. And number 3, have a damn plan. And that really is as simple as I can make it. All of the other little minutia, all of the other stuff, all of the stuff that gets like really deep into the weeds, the small technicalities, like the things like, do I need to use manual engine controls with this plane? That can fall under, oh yes, fly the plane. Guess what? I don't recommend things like mech, like right out the gate, because mech is a way to get an edge, but you have to realize where your skill level sits with whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze. And for a lot of people, mech isn't worth the squeeze. For me, I don't use mech all that often, especially in planes with supercharger gear switches, because like it detracts from my other abilities. It detracts from my other skill sets. It means that if I'm micromanaging my supercharger gear switches, or if I'm micromanaging my radiators, I'm not doing the look over the back left shoulder thing. I'm not really focused on the flaps. I might be distracting myself. I'm increasing my workload for like not enough gain. So that's what I mean. Everything that I've said can probably fall under like those 3 fundamentals, those 3 principles. And kind of like the last thing, though, that you need to do is you need to adapt and you need to learn from your mistakes. And that's hard for a lot of people. It's like really tough because War Thunder is not a game with like a nice, short, intuitive learning curve. It's not something that's completely there. But if you still break everything down into like 3 basic fundamentals, 3 basic principles, make it as simple as possible, you can kind of look at your mistakes and look at ways that you died, look at ways that you got killed, and go, hey, I was turn fighting near their base for like 5 minutes at low altitude, and I got a kill, and I got engaged by another guy, and then he came back, and the first guy that I killed got me. It's like, well, why'd that happen? Well, it's because I lost situational awareness. I overextended towards their base. I got caught. I didn't have the altitude buffer, and it happens. And they'd be like, okay, cool. Well, maybe next time I'll play it differently. And you could preemptively like adapt and like reflect on it, because this is how kind of like game sense ends up working too. Is like you look at the map, you look at the situation, like, yeah, I'm I'm about ready to get third party senses tingling, and sure enough, usually when you're I'm about ready to get third party senses tingling, it usually happens, and when it does, like, yes, be mad, call the guy racial slurs in chat, tell him he's a bitch for using the key 61. That is a perfectly valid reaction, and then once that's over, get the fuck over it, respawn your fucking bullshit plane, climb the bullshit plane up to 3,000 meters or whatever you need to do, and then go back and be like, hey, I'm gonna go kill this motherfucker. Like, that's really as simple as I can make it. Like, fly the plane, look around, make a plan, and then go kill motherfuckers. That's it. That's all you have to do. You don't need a 72-hour video ensemble to tell you to go out, fly the plane, and just shoot people down. It's not that hard. Don't make it too complicated. Anyways, that is my TED Talk. Thank you for attending. The door is over there. I don't know, do the engagement thing on YouTube and give me more subscribers, because it'd be, I don't know, it'd be cool.